All right, everyone, welcome back to the Abundance Formula podcast. I'm going to go ahead and pre-apologize for how my voice sounds and any of the sniffles that you're going to hear all throughout this episode because boy, happy new year. Welcome to 2024. I feel like we have scrounged our way physically into 2024 because we have literally been sick in our house with different versions of viruses and then ultimately accumulating in the flu since Christmas. So literally since Malia's dance recital, which was December 10, she caught some kind of random virus that lasted a couple days with really high fever. And then there was like one day where nobody had anything. And then Sailor got the same thing randomly for a couple of days. We maybe had several days then before Malia went down first with the flu, and hers lasted a good solid week. 5 to 6 days of very high fevers. She didn't have a fever all Christmas Eve. So we did stay home and didn't do any Christmas festivities. Prior to that, missed our traditional Enchanted Garden of Lights, which she was devastated about. But I was like, the biggest thing we don't want to miss, if possible, is Christmas with the family, like at grandma's house with the cousins and all of that. And so luckily Christmas Eve, she didn't have any fever and nobody else did. So then we did spend Christmas Day with everybody. And we had a couple days then after Christmas that nobody was sick. And then it like launched full on into Sailor. Then she got the flu and had it for all the days. And I got it and Kellen got it. So we didn't do anything for New Year's Eve. We went to bed at like 8:30 and just tried our best to sleep. So yeah, we've been in the trenches, it feels like. And so yeah, I took a little bit of a longer hiatus from the podcast to try to regroup, but I definitely wanted to get a podcast episode out for New Year's. And today's episode, really, I just wanted to do a very brief reflection of a few things or several things that I focused on or that I heard, like several nuggets I picked up through 2023 that as I picked up each one, I kept them as a really like great focal point throughout 2023. And they're things that were so pivotal in making 2023 turn out really great by the end of the year that I want to take these specific focus points into this year. Because I know they're really going to catapult me this year as well. So I wanted to share what those were and hopefully they can help you guys. So kind of towards now, this is one that I sort of was acting upon at the beginning of 2023, but finally words were put to it towards the end of 2023 in a podcast episode by Ed Milet. And his episode is called, I think he calls it separation season, but it's what he's talking about, separation season. And the way he was talking about it was, at the end of the year, people start getting busy, and that's when people actually start to slow down on their goals, their health, their fitness, their, even business. They kind of pull back on the reins a little bit. And he was encouraging you to actually like increase your speed, increase your focus, increase your efforts, all that stuff, because that's really the time to be able to lap your past self and others if that's part of a motivation for you. So what stuck out to me about that, I'm not personally interested anymore in caring about lapping other people. Like I just don't have the energy for that personally. I'm motivated by other people and how well they're doing. And I'm motivated to encourage people, but really I'm most interested in lapping myself. I'm most interested in outperforming the past version of me. And most importantly, if there's certain areas that I want to end up in a different place in life, say by the end of this year, and honestly, I rein it back into that. If I want to end up in a different place tomorrow, the next week, the next month, the next year, the way I do that is start making different decisions that 2023 Jeana or last month's Jeana or last week's Jeana, etc., would not have made. Certain things that I'm like, I know that those choices could have been better or bolder, right? And so what I did in 2023 is I had started, because the end of 2022 is a little rough and good and bad, but so I already started making this internal notion of like, I'm going to make different decisions in 2023. And so like, for example, when the opportunity to speak in Belize had come up a little towards the end of 2022, I started thinking, I'm like, you know what? The 2022 version of Jeana would have said no. I would have been like, I would love to, but that means I'm going to have to spend a whole week away from my family, which means I'm going to put people out because my husband's going to have to help juggle the kids by himself. I'm going to have to ask my mother-in-law and my mom to also help him to share the load, which means my mom's going to, she works full time. She's going to, have to put out extra energy, and Kellen's mom and all the things. And so, and any moms out there especially know, like, it's you feel bad to like make people take on that full-time, all the time role so you can go out, and not only just go out, but then to go out of the country. And Callan's never been out of the country, so then my guilt wanted to kick in and be like, he's never been out of the country, and so now I'm going to get to go out of the country without him and have all this, great time and opportunity, and he's left at home just managing the kids and working. That's not fair, right? So that all that stuff, well, that was 2022 Jeana's mindset. And so I had told myself, I'm like, no, I want different results at the end of 2023. So we're going to start making different decisions. I felt inside that to take this opportunity was going to amplify our business. It was going to help our family in the long run. It was for the good of the women on the retreat. It was for the good of our family, ultimately long term. It was ultimately going to be great for him to have some good bonding time with the girls. And it was going to be good for me to get away for a moment. I had literally never been away from the girls longer than a little over 24 hours. It's like that I needed, it really was going to be healthy for me to have space for me. And so I made that decision. So that's just an example of one of the things. And yes, it did do all the things I anticipated: amplified our business, amplified my impact, amplified my reach and network, and all of the things. And it really was helpful for all of us in the long run. And mom and Kellen and his mom were all fine. It was hard on them. It was a great growth for all of them. It was all good all around. And there was tons of different things that happened in 2023 that I had to pause before my 2022 self would have made the old version decisions and say, no, do I want to end up with a different result? Because one of the things I always think about is, okay, what is the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, right? So I would catch myself and be like, no, I want a different result than how 2022 ended. How do I do that? Okay, my intuition, the Holy Spirit inside me is telling me to do something different than what my old version is wanting to do, that's more comfortable or less scary. So I'm going to purposely do the polar opposite and do the other thing to, heck, just see if I get a different result, because I know how 2022 ended. And so Ed Milet's episode, just him phrasing that way, make moves to beat out the past version of yourself, to further separate yourself from the past version of you. And I liked that, because that was what I was starting to do in 2023, kind of inadvertently. I mean, on purpose, but I'm saying it helps to have words to it, to really be able to speak to it, because then you can really strengthen your intention around it, your mantra around it, your manifestation around it. So for 2024, my word of the year, and I think anybody of you that follow me on social media know, I don't do a bunch of resolutions anymore. I pick a word for the year, and I just usually pick what the first word that intuitively comes to me is, and that ends up kind of being my mantra through the year. It tends to be what pops up in my head when things happen. That are struggles or whatever. And it's like, oh, so for 2023, the word, it was kind of a couple words, was separate, or it was surrender/release. And so 2023 was a really hard year. There was tons of obstacles, tons of different hardships, different hurdles to overcome, a lot of purging and pruning. There was so much of that in 2023. And every time I would want to either have anxiety around it or like try to gain more control around certain things, then my word would pop up: surrender, release, like give it to God. He's got this. All you need to do is show up when he tells you and how he tells you, like let go of everything else. Let go, surrender the outcome that you thought was going to happen. Surrender where you thought this particular project was supposed to go. Surrender everything. Surrender just kept coming, coming, coming. And I was so glad to have that word, because otherwise I would have just felt such chaos. And so that's what's kind of tended to happen when I just pick a word for the year, is it tends to kind of be my answer in a lot of the hard times, which is really valuable. So for 2024, the word that came to me was fruitful. And so that word, paired with, again, these points I'm going through right now with you, are what my quote goals are in 2024. Is everything's going to surround to how do I support myself in being fruitful. I feel like this last year was a pruning season, and now this season is to be a fruitful season. So how do I set myself up to be fruitful? So I'm doing things that set myself up for that. And planning to be fruitful. So, wanting to get together, scheduling with my brother. He's in business finance, went to a top 10 business school, finally making the ask to say, hey, can we sit down? And I know you have a specific budget Excel sheet that you have that you said works really well. That's for personal and business. I would love to see it. I'd love to better mine. I'd love to see what yours is and learn around it and learn more about that kind of stuff. I don't love that stuff. And so I just stay very basic in it, but like he knows so much about that. And I just have put off that ask. And this year I was like, no, you know what? If my word is fruitful, I need to set myself up to be able to manage being really fruitful. I definitely don't want to all of a sudden become really fruitful and my little simple budget plan not be ready for that capacity. And then me not be able to handle the fruitfulness, right? So I'm starting to think ahead already. If the word is fruitful, what do I do to support myself in being ready to be really, really fruitful? And so point number one, that separation season from Ed Milet is another part of how do I become more fruitful? Continue to separate myself further from the 2023 version of me. And so even at the end of 2023, or like towards the end of 2023, I got this, revelation, like God's like, get back into competing and do this thing. And if you're going to do it, you're going to do it with one of the best coaches in the industry. And 2023 version of me, at the very end of the year is like, you should not invest in this coach, Jeana, because of all these reasons. You should save this money, all the things. But then I'm like, no, if I want to get a different outcome, I've got to do something different. And so made the decision to invest in the coach and do the thing and follow my intuition and what God's telling me. So again, loved that. Hope that can help you to think of that separation season. How in 2024 can you separate yourself from the 2023 version of you, the 2022 version of you? And if you're doing that, even that's always, if you do that, if you can look at the end of each year, like even my 2022 version of me made way different decisions than the 2019 version of me, and it's always bettering, and that's a win, you guys, right? That's how you can have more joy in your journey and feeling of success and confidence, is not trying to only see these pinnacle moments as the success part, but seeing like, wow, I really did grow. That's awesome. Go me, right? So that's focus number one for me also in 2024, and hopefully it helps you. The other one, this one was huge. And this goes back into the last example I just gave about scheduling some time to get together with my brother to see what he does for budgeting for his business and his personal, and how does he separate everything and balance everything and divide things percentage wise for investing and growing your business, but then also saving and planning and all the things, right? And so Lori Harder did this really great post that said questions to ask yourself to clear your blocks. And so the first one was, what am I pretending not to know that I need to take care of in order to move forward on my goals? That was huge for me. There's so many things that I want to do and I should have done already, but I pretended not to know how to do it. I may not know how to do it. If I didn't know how to do it, I know someone that knows how to do it. And that leads me into the second one where she says, number two, am I trying to do this alone? If so, who can I surround myself with in order to help me grow to get past this? That hit me hard because I hate asking people for help. Again, going back to Belize, the only thing that had ever held me back from doing things like that was feeling like I was putting my family out, having to ask multiple people to help me, take care of the children and all the responsibilities. Why I went and felt like I was playing and having this great time, and everybody else is now doubling down on their workload. And, things like her asking for my brother's time, which, he's so awesome and would give that to me for free. Things that people pay people financial advisors for. I'm getting financial advisorship for free because he's family. And I feel so bad to ask for that. But, or to ask, you could trade for it with people and give equal benefits or whatever the thing is. There's so many different varieties how this looks. Or even if you're paying people, whatever it is, there's so many things I could have done by now in 2023 if I wouldn't have tried to do it alone, or if I would have asked for help or asked for somebody's, I asked for people's advice, but I still feel bad in doing it, and I should do it even more, right? So that was number two of things she said. And number three was, what could this season's challenge or hardship be trying to tell me or teach me in order for me to grow into the person that I want to be? And That one I feel like I'm pretty good about. You guys hear me talk about that all the time on here. I'm always like, okay, how can this be used? If I have to go through this, we might as well not waste it. So what could this be teaching me? How could I learn something from this? Create some kind of solution that can save other people from this problem or help this never happen again, whatever that may be. So, but the first two really hit me hard. What am I pretending not to know that I need to take care of in order to move forward on my goals? Two, am I trying to do this alone? If so, who can I surround myself with in order to help me grow to get past this? Right? So those two were huge, and I'm taking those strongly into 2024, and I am not hesitating. And I've already made appointments and things like that in that direction. So that's number two focus. Her third point ties into the third thing that really helped me last year. Because, like I said, it was a very challenging, expansive pruning year for me. And so TD Jakes, I told you before, that's this like world-renowned pastor who talked about the analogy, and he has a book on it, and it's amazing, called The Crushing. And he gave the analogy of that crushing seasons of our life are like a grape. When a grape is crushed, it can no longer go back to being a grape, but it can now surrender to the process of becoming wine. And that it was a really, and he of course talks all in depth about how, like the grape was merely a grape, but the crushing made it have the capacity to become something way more valuable. And so, and he goes way in depth on all the phases of winemaking and how it totally translates into our life and the different things that happen. And even just the concept of, in order to, it's interesting that my word happened to even be fruitful for this year, because in order to bear really amazing up-leveled fruit, the old fruit on that vine has to die. It has to die, or it has to drop off the vine, and what can be used will be used and converted into whatever it is, and the rest needs to just die, and that's okay. And so I felt that in 2023. Some things that were good for a season needed to go, and it has served its purpose and are gone and needed to be let go of, surrendered. Surrendered and released. That was my word for 2023. And then, so some things in your life might have to die. Parts of yourself might have to die so that the new version can be birthed, can grow on that vine now for your next season of purpose, the next season of the thing you're called to do. And that really helped me get through last year with the right perspective of thinking about all these different challenges that were happening. And maybe why they were happening is because, okay, this particular fruit wasn't meant to be used for anything further beyond what it was up to this point. It's fine to let it go and not be attached to it. Hey, I'm going to stop trying to go back to be a grape, and I'm going to surrender this process of becoming something way more valuable. And kind of thinking through that analogy all this past year was really helpful. And I want to take that into this year so that any challenges that occur, that perspective and that 30,000-foot view was very, very helpful to keep hope when things were really hard. So I loved that. And then the next point of focus, I don't know if you say, I think it's Young Pueblo. He had just done this quote that said, "You know what you need to do, be bold and start making moves, even if the plan is not fully clear." And I'm definitely a planner. And so it's something I'm always striving to get better about, is making bold moves, even if I can't see the full layout of exactly how this is going to work out. I feel it in my soul that it's the right, like, so for example, the competing thing, you know, I don't know exactly how it's going to turn out. I don't know, will I turn pro in 2024 or will it be after that? I don't know, but I do know I'm supposed to do it. I do know that solidly in the revelation that I had. And so I'm going to, whether that means I'm just meant to rub shoulders with certain people along the journey, like through competing. That's how I met Whitney Weiser Savage, who's come on here multiple times, and we've done amazing things together. That's whose retreat I spoke at in Belize, right? There's so many amazing things we've created together since we met in competing over 10 years ago. So I don't know what connections I'm meant to make, or in the pursuit of that goal, what things it's going to walk me into or paths it's going to make me cross. I don't know. So surrendering the fact I don't know all that stuff, but going boldly forward in the decision and making that decision quickly was a good thing. And I want to keep doing more of that in 2024. And that's something in the past I have totally held myself back on, is trying to do even more research. And I mean, there's a balance, of course, of, you don't make stupid decisions, but when you stay too long in the planning, when there's some answers you will never, ever be able to get until you take the next step and you just see what happens. And if it takes you a different direction and doesn't work out, it's no big deal. That's just always been hard for me because I don't like when something doesn't work out. I don't like to not feel like something worked or it was messy. And I've gotten so much better with that perfectionism thought concept so much since forever ago. But it's always a focus. I keep telling myself to keep growing to the next level. Is people who are really successful and abundant get up quicker from failures, and they make decisions quicker, smart decisions. They get better at making smart decisions faster as they keep doing it. Their intuition gets better, right? They can spot good opportunities versus bad opportunities quicker. And some of that comes from some of the things they tried not working out. So now they can spot the things that won't work out better. So that is just something I want to take into 2024 as well, that I definitely started doing a lot more of in 2023. And then the last thing for 2024 is to stay laser focused. And this is something stay laser focused on one, maybe two things that are really important to you, like goal wise. And of course, you have different areas of your life. And specifically for me, like in this, I'm thinking of career wise with this particular example, but the same it applies to any category that's kind of chief on your mind. So it's really easy to get distracted by shiny opportunities. And that's one thing I've struggled with in the past, is you get a lot of opportunities, or you can get a lot of opportunities, and that's great. But sometimes taking too many different opportunities in different directions that you do love and want all these areas to move up together, it can kind of ultimately take you at a slower pace than if you picked a couple areas and really just took opportunities that furthered those. And I've heard a ton of podcasts towards the end of 2023 that all these successful people were saying, like, they really took off when they kind of stopped offering so many different things and putting their efforts in so many different areas and projects and focused literally on one, maybe two. And then they finally really rose. And that's so hard for me because, like, there's multiple things I want to do long term, and they all said that same thing, but they're like, at the end of the day, focusing on one or two, really even just one, is going to get you to that place where you can do more things faster. And so I've had opportunities towards the end of 2023 that this stay focused concept came to the forefront of my mind. Like, I was offered to speak in Tulum, Mexico for another women's retreat, and that was very tempting. But the date of that was literally right before one of the big national level shows. It's even locally here in Chattanooga. And I definitely want to do that show because you can earn a pro card at that show. It's right here close. I would not have to travel. That's definitely one of all the shows in the entire US that I will be doing, that I need to do. And it's very close to it. Now, might I still be able to, I'm sure I could find somewhere to work out in Mexico, like, I'm sure I can make it work, but it just wasn't in alignment when I was honest with myself. Like, if I really knew this was a revelation to compete this year and to go hard at that, did this opportunity align with that revelation? And the answer was no. So I definitely was grateful for the opportunity. I definitely want to speak for the next one this year. And that particular date just happened to overlap with, like, literally a week or two, which is prime peak time before a national level show. And I would hate it. I would kick myself if I did that speaking and it really wore me out, and all that travel changed kind of my body and the fluids and all the things. And if that show was the show I might have turned pro at, if I would have just stayed focused, And so I turned that one down. I had another really great speaking opportunity, but it would have been multiple speaking engagements throughout the whole year, and it was going to not be in alignment because I think that was going to take too much energy away from being able to do my best for both sides, to do my best for the speaking, to do my best for competing. And so, although it's hard when opportunities can be lucrative ones or whatever, they are all good things, but you can have too many good things at once and not be able to perform your best for any of them. And so that was something that I chose to do. And I'm hoping that in this year, I'll see the fruitfulness of those decisions. I know that I will, because they just didn't to my soul even feel in alignment. I do want to do speaking this year, but I want to do ones that feel in alignment, that I can tell don't take away the energy that comes from this one goal that feels like it should be at the forefront of my career this year. And so things that are local or closer are definitely options that aren't going to take far away travel and, aren't going to take additional time, like for the shows, like family will travel with me or, so, hopefully most of the time, but you never know. So I don't want to schedule in even more travel through the year where then family's going to be even more put out with the kid, so, and I'm not looking to just be away from my kids all year, you know what I'm saying? So again, alignment was huge and those just didn't feel in alignment. So but past version of me would have overscheduled myself and not wanted to miss whichever opportunity might be the opportunity that could really keep moving the needle forward. And sometimes what moves the needle forward and what I hear is, the formula of abundance amongst all these successful and abundant people is when you don't take all the different opportunities and burn out. You don't take the ones that don't feel in alignment to support the one or two main goals you're going to focus on, especially if it's career related. Like, does getting on that podcast support your overarching goal of, XYZ? Yes, cool. Take that opportunity. Does this podcast align? Is it in the right genre? Is it the right target audience? Is it the right mission and vision that aligns with the thing you're pushing right now? No? Okay, then although I'm very honored you want to have me on, and it'd be great to tap into your audience, but it's not really my audience. So I'm going to have to say no, right? So whatever the things are, it's very easy to jump to all the shiny opportunities because maybe it's the one is what you want to think. Maybe that's the one I should take. What if I miss it? What if they never offer it to me again? But that's really a lack mentality. But uber focus tends to be the secret sauce. So that is another final point that I'm taking into 2024 and going to try to get even better at, because I very easily can get distracted in different projects and different things that I love and even am good at and are great opportunities and may even pay really great money. But if it's not where God wants me to be right now, it won't be fruitful in the long run. So those are just some things. Let's see, how many was that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Those are 6 focus points that I'm taking into 2024. And I like their focus points. They're not like resolutions. They're just thoughts, right? They're just tips. And I think tips are easier. They're not tasks, they're tips. And I think those are things that are easier to keep in mind to accomplish than resolutions. There doesn't feel like a pressure to it. And they're just things that'll start popping in your head. You're about to make a decision. You're like, oh, I remember Jeana said on that podcast, that really great thing Leah Harder had said about like, who are you, what are you pretending not to know? Who are you pretending not to know that could help you with this thing? And you're just putting it off and you need to just make the ask. You need to just not feel bad about it, make the ask and be so appreciative. Any way you can help that person back, whatever, make the ask, or it'll pop into your head, man, this is such a really difficult, crushing season. And you want to get down. And then you remember, oh yeah, Jeana said on that podcast that T.D. Jakes had this really great grape analogy that, yeah, sure enough, a grape can never become wine unless it's crushed first. Cool. New amazing wine can never be made unless a grape grows on the vine, falls off. Some of the grapes are meant to pass on into wine, and some of them are meant to die, and they're meant to pass on. And that season of that grape is done, and it's on to new fruits and new impact and new purpose, right? So hopefully these are just things that'll pop into your mind throughout 2024 when you hit different, breakthrough moments, different choices, decision-making times, need for hope, need for courage and boldness to take action despite not knowing exactly where it's going to take you, but you have an intuitive feeling that it's where you need to be, and to stay really focused on, a couple of things and really go hard for that and just see what happens. Again, my biggest mantra is truly like, if you want to get a different result, you got to make different decisions. And when those decisions are, you'll come up to them and be like, last year I would have done this in this moment, but I know I want to end up in a different place than last year. So I'm going to do this thing, which my intuition tells me to do, but it scares me more and I don't really want to do it. But I'm going to do that because I want a different result. I want to see what happens. I want to see if I can end up somewhere different in 2024 because I want to be somewhere different. And so I challenge you to do that this year. Hope you guys had a great New Year's Eve and New Year's Day and Christmas and all of that. I'm hoping that you are not sick. I know it is just rampant everywhere. So just stay safe, stay healthy. Happy New Year and welcome to 2024. Have a great day, y'all. Bye.